Well, this sub pan is hard, and I'm ready to put the pan in. But first, I'd like to go over a few of the features that I like to see in pan construction. It's funny, this is where I started in the tile business, at a shower pan. Not putting it in, but tearing them out. Thousands of them. And most of them leaked because there was just a little pinhole here or there. It was nothing very major. The bad part about redoing a shower stall like this is that from a cost per square foot basis, this is one of the most costly tile installations of all. Normally what I see here is blocking, toenailed in between two studs. Now that's fine, but in order to get that blocking in, you need to put lots of toenails in. And those heads go in at an angle, and those angled heads can pierce the pan. So instead of that, I like to rabbet out the studs and let in a single piece of plywood. That allows just a minimum number of nails to hold it in place, and the nails that are used are flush with the top of the plywood. The second problem area is right here, where the threshold meets the jamb. This is a spot where a lot of pinholes start and a lot of leaks take place. Now the pan material I use, which is called Chloralloy 240, takes care of this problem with an accessory piece called a dam corner. Now one of the reasons I like this material is tough, durable, and long-lasting. And as long as I've been using it, I've never had a failure. The third problem area is the drain, and this is where most leaks take place. Now the construction details here can get a little complicated, but I think if you watch the different steps that I go through, you'll have a lot better understanding of how everything works. The butyl on the plywood enables the pan to hang on to the wall tightly. Obviously I can't shoot any staples in the pan, otherwise it would leak. Notice that I've partially screwed the bolts into position. You'll see why in a moment. Regardless of the material you use for a pan, pre-folding can save a lot of time and keep you from needless fussing. There are times when it makes sense to do your cutting after the pan is positioned, like this threshold area here. I'll cover the jam areas with another patch of CPE and then seal them up with the dam corners. The margin trowel can be used to flatten the pan against the wall, and the staples can hold the top edge in place. To keep the box folds tight and flat against the wall, I'll cover them with some of the Xylene. It's used as the solvent glue. It's pretty toxic, so I wear a charcoal mask. And then merely press the box fold back together again against the wall. To reinforce the pan at the drain area, I've added an extra piece of CPE, and you can see now why I screwed in the bolts. By cutting a small circle directly over the head, I can force the pan over the heads, remove the bolts, position the top half of the drain, and know that the holes are in the right place. And to keep the weep holes from clogging with mud, I stack some tile spacers over top of them and hold them in place with a little bit of mortar. And finally, more deck mud. If this had been a real job, I wouldn't have floated this floor until the walls were both floated and tiled. That way I could use the lower edge of the tile as a screeding guide for the floor mud. But here, instead, I've just drawn a pencil line around the perimeter of the pan. And you can see here I'm filling up the pan about halfway with mortar. Once that's done, I can install the reinforcing mesh. On a thick bed like this, the mortar bed will be considerably stronger if the mesh is placed in the center of the bed rather than at the bottom of it. Here I can hold the wire down with my hand until the mortar locks it in place. And then once again, it's simply a matter of distributing the mud evenly. Packing it down and compacting it in place. And then finally screeding it off. And usually for a sloped floor like this, I dispense with the float strips. As long as I have a reference guide, which is the line around the perimeter or a row of tiles, and the drain frame in the center. I get a lot more enjoyment out of doing this freehand. The finished pan should have a perimeter that's level with uniform sloping towards the drain. And at this point, this floor can be tiled like any other surface. But because of its shape, you get much better results by using smaller tiles. Now I can lay out the flat floor, but first I need to cut some tiles.